What is up, Packers fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Draft brought to you by the good folks at Badger State Brewing, right there in Green Bay, Wisconsin, just minutes away from beautiful Lambeau Field. I am your host and the publisher of Packer Report, Ross Uglum, and we are going to talk today about one of the Packers trade up targets in the NFL draft, and that would be fourth round pick Evan Williams, a defensive back out of Oregon. Now, I say defensive back with Evan because that's what I mean. He's a very similar player in experience to Javon Bullard. Now, those two experiences are very different. Ross, what the hell are you talking about? What you just said makes no sense. Well, what I mean by that is there is very real versatility with Evan Williams. You simply look just at basic player participation statistics from Pro Football Focus, and you can see 1,172 career snaps in the box, 960 career snaps at free safety, and 604 career snaps as a slot cornerback. This man's versatility is not theoretical. It is on tape. Now, what's different about it? Age, experience, and certainly where some of that experience came from. So Evan Williams was a big-time performer for Fresno State for 4 years. I mean, he played 406 snaps as a true freshman, played a ton in 2021 and 2022, and then moved to Oregon for a fifth and final season where he acquitted himself very well. With Bullard, we're talking about Javon Bullard. That was, I think, 3 years and out. I think Bullard's still a young guy, and he still had the pedigree, or he still had the experience of being a nickel and a safety and moving all over the place, very similar to Evan Williams. But in Evan Williams, you're getting a 22, 23-year-old kid. You're getting a guy who played a bunch of Mountain West ball and then one season in the Pac-12, not 3 years, made a huge impact in the SEC and move forward. And that right there might just be the difference between, round 2 and round 4. I will say Bullard is probably a faster athlete as well. Looking at some of the, we've really been focusing on kind of the mock draftable statistics as opposed to RAS on Evan Williams. And, I think you also want to classify him as a defensive back because as with Bullard, he's not huge, right? 26th percentile height for a safety, 24th percentile weight for a safety. Not much in the way of wingspan, not much in the way of arm length, oddly enormous hands with 92nd percentile hands. Very okay 40 at 4.61. Good 10-yard split, an elite vertical jump. I think the RAS ended up being right around somewhere between 7 and 8. I think, let me just make sure that I have this exactly correct. And then, you see, 8.20. Okay. You see folks talk about good football player. And look, man, an 82nd percentile athlete is fine. That's totally fine. But when you talk about 4.6 speed and kind of a not great 3-cone, that makes no sense when you put it together with a shuttle time. But you do look for that good football player. You're looking for instincts. He's not under athletic, if you will. He's not, to disqualify himself in any way. But he's not the fastest guy on the field. He's not the biggest guy on the field. Very explosive athlete, but you're just looking for kind of instincts at that position. You're looking, is he a good football player? Because we're going to need him to be. We're going to need him to probably be able to handle multiple positions. And I think that's when we talk about fit and projection and looking forward, which is what this show is all about. That's really going to be, I think, where Evan Williams has to shine. And look, he's athletic enough to do it. Now, do you want him, playing deep safety with 4.61 speed? Do you want, do you want him matching up with crazy fast slot receivers? You're going to play him a little bit at nickel? Probably not, unless you're going to give him some help. But he seems to be a smart guy. He's a very experienced guy. He's an older guy. Coaches love him, just rave about him at Oregon. People talk about what a great person he is. All those things are important. But it's what can you do on the field? And ultimately, I thought the basic numbers were pretty good. You look over at PFF, missed tackle rate of 13.8%. It's probably something that you'd like to see a little bit lower, but it's not tragic. Probably like to see a little bit more ball production. 0 interceptions in the last 2 years after a 3-pick year in 2021 and only 1 forced fumble in his college career. You'd probably like to see a little bit more ball production. But man, coverage grade of 72.2 last year, coverage grade of 69.7 the year before that, coverage grade of 73.4 the year before that. You know, with 60 being average, like he's an above average coverage guy. And once again, we talk about lining up absolutely all over the field. And that was the case. And that does, I think, differentiate himself a little bit from Javon Bullard. Is Javon was like, okay, you're the nickel as a sophomore. Now you're the free safety as a junior, and boom, you're off to the NFL. Both Fresno State and Oregon, with the exception of maybe in 2021, he was pretty heavy in the box as kind of an overhang style safety. He just was all over, really all over. One crazy part about Evan Williams, and we'll move into fit and get kind of away from what he was as a player. Now, I like to get a little bit deeper into what guys were as a player when we didn't do the prospect primer, and I didn't do a prospect primer for Evan. Um, he was too low on kind of my list to make even like that thing I did of 6 guys that were interchangeable. Good to use that word interchangeable. I threw Bullard in there because I thought he made a ton of sense. But at the same time, Evan Williams makes just as much sense. I just didn't have him rated high enough. I saw a worse athlete than even 8.2 on film. I got scared by the age. I got scared by the lack of production when you talk about splash plays. However, you talk about splash plays, and they kind of come from a weird spot. And I'll explain his. Evan Williams, over the last 3 years, has one of the highest overall pass rush grades in college football. It's honestly insane. And we're talking about an extremely small sample size, 52 total rushes his last year at Fresno State and his only year at Oregon. But that got turned into 6 sacks, 3 QB knockdowns, and 7 hurries with a batted ball. He is unbelievably good at rushing the passer. He is unbelievably good at blitzing. He has 2 different seasons, both 2021 and 2023, with pass rush grades from Pro Football Focus over 92. I put a post out on Twitter about this with some clips. I mean, he is unbelievable rushing the passer, which is, I guess Jamal Adams made a good living doing that, but it's not super high up on like my priority list if I'm drafting a safety. But it's a fun thing because he's freaking amazing at it. It's crazy. His ability to not blow by the quarterback, his ability to break down and make a play, his ability to beat chips, his ability to time his blitz. He's just unreal. And so, I go, oh, not that many splash plays. No, 1 forced fumble, 4 pass breakups over the last 2 seasons with only one pick, 0 picks. And you talk about 6 sacks, 3 quarterback knockdowns, and a batted ball on 50 rushes. Insane to me. I mean, truly insane. So projecting, and look, it's a lot of the same kind of fun conversation with Evan Williams as you have with Javon Bullard, because I think we touched on this in the Bullard episode. What if they don't believe defensively in Keyshawn Nixon? I don't. I know I don't, but they seem to not care very much what I think, and that's reasonable. That's earned. But man, I think he makes a ton of sense if long term they just want to use Keyshawn as return dime weapon, or I don't really know for sure. But what I do know is that and Javon talked about interchangeability when guys to be able to do free, strong, and nickel. If you put and this is theoretical. This is assuming that Evan Williams hits and Xavier McKinney's still good, which there's no reason not to believe that, and Javon Bullard hits. But you just look at where these guys were able to play, Bullard and Williams, at power 4 level. They're interchangeable, right? Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams, and Javon Bullard as part of a big nickel, or as part of a system in which, more often than not, McKinney's going to be the high guy, but the slot area defenders are Williams and Bullard. You can pull a lot of levers and push a lot of buttons if you're Jeff Hafley in that situation. I also think if they want to go more traditional and Katano Ladapo ends up starting or ends up working his way into like a traditional Cam Chancellor box safety type role. Now, you can't just smack people like Cam used to do. But if the plan is for Catan to start and kind of be really your true box safety, your true strong safety, if the plan for Catan is like the Morgan Burnett plan, especially as it got further into Morgan's career, where Morgan was a strong safety. Once you got to nickel and dime, he became a linebacker. Well, then Evan Williams basically backing up all three positions, maybe playing a little dime and playing all your special teams, that works in round 4. That works really well in round 4. If you want to do Bullard or Nixon at the slot, Catan in the box, and Xavier McKinney at free, that's something that I think works. So a lot of this just depends on how much the staff wants to actually use Keyshawn Nixon on defense. It also has a lot to do with developing depth. I mean, Green Bay burned through tons of injured safeties last year. If Xavier McKinney has to miss a month, it'd be nice to have Evan Williams be able to play 82% of what, give you 82% of what McKinney was able to give you as a legitimate all-pro. It'd be nice if you just went from like an A or A plus at that position to a B minus, and the Packers didn't even have a B minus out there at safety last year. If he can continue his versatility, I think he's athletic enough, really dive into the defense. I think he's a win now player. And I think the Packers did a lot of that. I've mentioned it on other shows about this class. These draft picks are old. It's clear to me that the Packers took the home run swing away in this draft, and they might hit some home runs. They might really, but I think they were really trying to kind of pop some doubles in the gap, bang a couple off the right field wall, move some runners over. If we're looking for baseball analogies here in the dog days of the Major League Baseball season, I think truly they were just trying to get some good football players on the team and maybe not try to hit, like I said, these massive home runs and try and find an all-pro or try and find a, bona fide starter around 5 or 6 or whatever. Evan Williams is an older, really solid prospect that can play multiple positions and help you out on special teams. I mean, I think makes a ton of sense. And if he turns out as his number's sake, Micah Hyde, I think you're thrilled. I think you're absolutely thrilled with that. Obviously, Micah's, I think, a multiple-time All-Pro at safety, but, that type where you can play a little slot, play a little free, maybe not the most athletic guy in the world. I think Evan Williams has potentially a long future ahead of him in Green Bay. I think he makes sense at a bunch of positions. I thought the pick at the time was TJ Tampa, and I would have preferred that. But I've certainly sort of come around to why Green Bay thought that this might be good. And you have to kind of take the fact that Tampa was available kind of out of your thinking. And like I said, if he's a reasonable nickel, or he's a decent backup at both safety positions and plays all your special teams units, steps in there and does well, if any of the safeties in front of him go down, which does happen in this league, he's a fine 4th round pick. A little bit of reality check into what a 4th round pick usually brings back in value. And again, like, your mind is, holy crap, they traded up for TJ Tampa. That didn't happen. And TJ Tampa might stink. We don't know. But Green Bay moving up for a guy like this who just gets it, older, ready to play. I think this makes a ton of sense. I think you contribute right away. Might not have the ceiling, but hey, Micah Hyde was an all-pro. Why can't this kid be? Okay. Thank you for watching or listening. If you are on the podcast side, you can follow me on X or Twitter, whatever you call it. I'm at Ross Uglum. Check us out over at Packer Report. Visit the Packer Report merch store. You can find some of that stuff. We get some really, really cool stuff over there. I ordered 3 pieces. Going to hopefully feature some of that here on the channel before the daily draft goes away. Have a great rest of your day, folks. Go Pack Go.